Update. Am I the a-hole for going behind my wife's back and telling her pregnant sister that she's being cheated on? Original post. I have been married to my wife for 3 years. I'm 27 and she is 26. My sister-in-law is 30 and my brother-in-law is 31. I've always had a close relationship with my sister-in-law. We're friends. I also have a decent connection with my brother-in-law, though we're not that close. We often talk and get along. My wife and her sister haven't gotten along as well as you might expect siblings do. It's not just normal sibling rivalry, but rather constant fights and arguments. Anyway, 3 weeks ago, when I was having dinner with my friends, I saw my brother-in-law with another woman. They were just eating and I didn't think much of it. I wanted to go and greet him, but I stayed with my friends. After a while, I saw him give this woman a light kiss. I was so shocked. I decided not to confront him, but when I got home, I told my wife everything. I told her that her sister was being cheated on and that we needed to tell her. My wife said we should talk to my brother-in-law instead of telling her sister and that we shouldn't break up their marriage because her sister is pregnant. I was like, what? So what if she's pregnant? Her husband is cheating. I tried multiple times to convince my wife that we should tell her sister the truth. I told her, I know you guys don't get along, but she's still your sister, and this isn't right. But my wife asked me to stay out of it. I tried my best to convince her, but she either ignored me or insisted that we should break up their marriage. I had enough, and yesterday I told her that I was going to tell my sister-in-law the truth. She and I have a great bond, and I can't and won't betray her. My wife then said that if I told her, she wouldn't talk to me anymore. I replied, I won't talk to you either if you refuse to do what's right. Today, I went to my sister-in-law's place and told her everything. At first, she was doubtful and asked me to leave. After a few hours, she called me crying and said that what I told her was true. She apologized for doubting me and told me she was leaving. I asked her, where will you go? Do you have money? She said she did, but not much. I wired her some money and told her to call me if she needed help. She thanked me and said she would only use the money if necessary and would return what she didn't need. My brother-in-law called my wife and my wife lashed out at me, saying I ruined her family and her sister's life. I said, I thought that when we got married, your family became mine and my family became yours. Why are you defending that man so much? What about your sister? She didn't respond and hasn't talked to me since. I tried to explain to her that it was the right thing to do, but she wouldn't listen. Finally, I said, fine, stay angry, and if you want to divorce me, go ahead. Now, I feel like I may have ruined my marriage and don't know if what I did was truly the right thing. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. If I were you, I would sleep with one eye open. Your wife has no moral standards. I truly have been thinking about this, that she might just be... But I love and trust my wife, and I was thinking she wanted me to not tell her because my sister-in-law is pregnant, and women knows how stressful pregnancy and after pregnancy is. And she might have thought that she needs support from her husband? I don't know. Nothing here makes sense to me. There was nothing for me to suspect of her cheating on me. You know what else would cause your pregnant sister-in-law stress? Getting an STD from her cheating husband. You've done the right thing. Sounds like your wife supports cheater and that should be worrying to you. Not the a-hole. I've thought about it, and I am concerned. But I think she asked me not to tell her because my sister-in-law is pregnant, and it would cause her more stress. That's just my guess. But the truth is, if I hide it and support my wife, I'm in the wrong. If I tell her the truth after she gives birth, I'm still wrong. If I hide it forever, I'm still wrong. So what am I supposed to do? Cover for the betrayer and not help my family? Even if my wife is angry at me and I'll probably lose her if I haven't lost her already. I'm surprised your wife wouldn't tell her sister. So am I. What I think is that no matter how strained both sisters' relationship is, at least a sibling would have the back of their sibling, especially when they are pregnant. But she didn't even try to help her sister and angry at me. I am like, WTF? Is this really the woman I got married to? Now for the update. It's been a few days since I told my wife's sister that her husband is cheating. Just to clarify for all the people questioning me, no, I am not in love with my sister-in-law. I don't have any inappropriate relationship or feelings for her. I respect her and she's family. Yesterday, I asked my wife why she was upset and why she didn't want me to reveal the truth to her sister. I know they don't get along, but they're still siblings. My wife said it wasn't our place to interfere. I asked if she was okay with her sister being cheated on. She said she wasn't, but that I'd ruin their marriage with my stupidity. She said her sister is pregnant and the child needs his father, and so does the wife. I was so shocked when she said that. Like, what? I asked her, if I were to cheat on you, would you forgive me? She said yes. I also asked if, hypothetically, she ever cheated on me, would she hide it from me? She also said yes. I was stunned and asked her if she understood what she was saying. She said, yes, and I am confident. Just because you slept with someone else doesn't mean everyone else has to suffer and break the family. I was speechless, and then told her I had also sent my sister-in-law money. She started yelling at me, saying I shouldn't have helped her, knowing that she doesn't like her sister. I replied that if that's how she felt, maybe we should just divorce. She got angry, shouted, "Fine," and began packing her bags. I tried my best to stop her, telling her that I love her and that I was only doing what I thought was right. No one should have to suffer betrayal like this. She argued that it wasn't the right time. I asked, so when should we tell her the truth? After she gives birth? Because that would worsen her postpartum depression. Or years after? She'll just blame us. My wife said we should have kept quiet and left it alone. I tried so hard to stop her, but she wouldn't listen and left. I've tried to contact her parents and friends, but none of them know where she is. They instead started questioning me, saying that as her husband, I should have taken care of her and should know where she is. I even visited my brother-in-law's place to confirm my suspicions, but I didn't see her car or any of her belongings there. I hate that I'm being blamed for simply telling the truth, and my wife left me without a second thought. I was so frustrated that today, I called my sister-in-law and told her she could stay at my place because I'm going to my parents, and my wife left me with no one knowing where she is. She said she'd try talking to her parents, but later called back to say they didn't know where she was either. I told her to focus on herself and come stay at my place instead of spending all her money on temporary accommodations. So now, I'm at my parents' house and my sister-in-law is at my home. Maybe I'm being petty, but I can't stand that my wife left me without a second thought. I don't know if she's cheating or has cheated, or if she would ever truly betray me and her own sister because of family feuds. But one thing is for sure, I can't trust my wife anymore. She hurt me deeply. I'm sorry, Opie. The way your wife speaks on the subject of cheating is concerning. Especially that she would hide it from you. If I were in your shoes, I won't be able to trust her either. How she doesn't look at cheating on your significant other as a huge deal breaker is beyond me. Some couples can forgive and move past it, but not all. The baby's father can still be in his/her life. I'm sorry you're hurting and going through this. Hugs. Yeah, I feel like she isn't even the woman I married. She's like a completely different person. Maybe the comments about I married a wrong sister were right. Haha. In any case, I loved her and I still do and will do so for a foreseeable future. So I'll just back out of relationship and dating scene. And even I don't trust my wife at this point. Your wife was mad because she's most likely the one having the affair with your brother-in-law. And if it's not with a brother-in-law, it's definitely with someone else where you think she's been, hiding at her affair partner's place. Your wife told you she would cheat on you and would have no remorse to it, and would also not tell you. What in that tells you she hasn't already done that? She sympathizes with cheating probably because she's been in that position and sees it in herself as no big deal. You obviously feel differently. Think on this for a while before you go groveling and begging for her back. I think she just told you a really big secret and expects you to understand and forgive her. At this point, I would just contact her parents and say you need an address for her to be served. This is not a marriage where your partner storms off and disappears with no contact. Next story. Am I the a-hole for considering divorcing my wife because she told my sister's husband that my sister cheated on him? My wife and I have been married for 14 years and we have 3 kids. My wife has always been a bit snoopy and nosy, but it didn't really bother me until recently. My sister and I have always been close since childhood, and we tell each other everything. Many years ago, my sister confessed to me that she had an emotional affair, which lasted for a month. She was in tears and very remorseful. Her marriage was going through a difficult time. We talked a lot about it, and after those conversations, my sister joined therapy, became sober, and she's now living a very happy life with her husband. My wife never knew about this because I've always made sure to keep my conversations private. However, a couple of weeks ago, I was a bit drunk and got lazy about being careful while talking to my sister. My sister was talking about how that was a turning point in her life and how she could be happier now. My wife overheard this conversation and asked me about it the next day. I told her it was none of her business, but she kept saying it was unfair to my sister's husband and that he deserved to know. I told my wife to let it go, but instead, she called my sister's husband directly and told him what she'd overheard. I was shocked and really angry at her. Now my sister's marriage is on the rocks, and her husband is seriously considering divorce. I told my wife that if my sister goes through a divorce, then I would go through a divorce too. She was shocked and apologized repeatedly, saying she would never do this again, but I don't think this is repairable. She's now begging me to at least consider our kids and how disruptive a divorce would be. The atmosphere at our house is really tense now, and I'm no longer sleeping in the same room as my wife. I refuse to talk to her or eat the breakfast or dinner she prepares. Instead, I go out to eat. My wife has cried a few times, but I think those are empty tears. Am I the a-hole for considering divorce? Now for the comments. It's weird that you're the one threatening divorcing her, since she would be the one divorcing you because you're a huge a-hole. I'm going to be an emotional terrorist to my children by removing myself from breakfast and dinner and leaving them confused and scared because they can tell I'm fighting with their mom. Dude can't even keep appearances for the sake of the kids. You don't even have to speak with her. Just show up and eat the freaking food for their sake until you either decide to patch things up or file for divorce. This part, dude doesn't even care about his kid's emotional state. Just him, his sister, and his own invalid feelings. What kind of husband supports a cheater? Covers it up? What kind of dad treats his kids' mothers like that in front of them? All of this over a month-long emotional affair years ago? It wasn't years ago to the cheated on husband. He just found out, so it's fresh. Things get really gray when you're talking about a short emotional affair. What does it even mean in this context? She realized she was developing feelings for a coworker and texting him too much, so she cut contact with him and went on to have a far happier marriage? Going back on some of that stuff is thought crime level nonsense. I'm okay with labeling something an emotional affair when they're sending "I love you and can't wait to leave my husband for you" texts, and he finds out about it. But it's kinda different when she realizes she's doing the wrong thing, then shuts it down on her own before anything physical happens. Like, what's next? Leave her for having a dream about someone else? We all have thoughts and feelings, and sometimes they wander. The thing that should matter is what you choose to do with those feelings. She chose to discard them and stay with her husband. That seems like something I wouldn't hold against her. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my sister she's ruining my wedding by demanding I invite her ex? So my wedding is coming up in a few weeks, and it's supposed to be one of the happiest days of my life. I, 28 female, have been planning it for months with my fiancé, 30 male. Everything is coming together except for my sister, 26 female. A bit of backstory. My sister and her ex, Jake, were together for several years. They broke up about 6 months ago, and it was a pretty messy breakup. She was devastated, and I've been there for her through all of it. I understand that she's still struggling, and I've tried my best to be supportive. The problem started when she told me she wanted me to invite Jake to my wedding. I was taken aback because, well, things ended badly between them, and she's clearly not over it. I told her from the start that I wasn't comfortable inviting him, especially since it was such a painful breakup for her. She seemed okay with that at first, but then she started pushing me harder. She said it wasn't fair for her to pretend everything is fine and that I was being insensitive to her feelings. I tried explaining that this is my wedding and I want it to be a day focused on joy, not uncomfortable situations. But now she's really upset. Then it escalated. She told me that if Jake wasn't invited, she wouldn't come to the wedding at all. She says it's too important for her to have him there for closure. I get that she's going through something tough, but this is my wedding, and I don't want it overshadowed by old drama. I've tried to be firm and said she could either come and respect my decision or not come at all. But now she's telling the rest of the family that I'm being selfish and prioritizing a wedding day over her emotional well-being. It's tearing me up, but I really feel like I'm standing my ground. I'm now questioning if I'm being too harsh. I know weddings are a big deal, but it feels like she's making this all about her, and it's not the time or place to do that. So, am I the a-hole? Say, okay, you're off the guest list, and then hang up. The wedding is not the venue for her drama. Whatever you do, don't keep reasoning with her and negotiating with her. She's out. Invite your nice colleague or neighbor instead. She needs to stop being this pathetically desperate for a guy who doesn't want her. It would be weird for Jake to even want to come. But let's say he did and does go. Sister is probably imagining a reconciliation happening because it is a wedding and love is in the air, and she has watched one too many Hallmark movies. But what is going to happen in reality is, he will either come with someone which will set her off. He will start hitting on the bridesmaids, which will set her off, or he will spend the nights actively trying to avoid her while she chases him around like a lovesick puppy, which will then set her off. No matter what, she will end up ruining the wedding. Not coming is always a choice, but not coming because an ex won't be there is delusional and sad. I hope you have a beautiful, drama-free wedding and a resounding not the a-hole. I think she's hoping Jake will reach out to her to figure out going together as each other's +1 if he gets the invite, possibly triggering a reconciliation. That level of delusion needs serious help though. Not the a-hole. If she wants closure, she calls him like an adult and have a last dinner with him. Your wedding is not a place for her private dramas. Your in-laws don't have to be witnesses of this. She is disrespectful towards you, but she is more towards your fiancé, like it's not his big day too. It's not about your family, it's about two families joining. Your sister makes it about her. So, it's absolutely her right to not come to the wedding, but it will be her fault, not yours. She doesn't want closure. She's hoping the romantic setting of a wedding will be the perfect place to rekindle their relationship. Update. A random girl has contacted me saying that my boyfriend of 2+ years violated her. What should I do about this? Original post. I've been with my boyfriend for 2 years. We live together and own a dog together. We love each other very much and get along like gangbusters. We are very intimate, like about 3 to 4 times a week, and my boyfriend has never ever done anything that made me feel even the slightest bit uncomfortable. He is very sweet, very loving man, and he has always stopped immediately during the act whenever I have shown even the slightest sign of discomfort. This past Friday, the two of us were out doing our own things as I went out to a bachelorette party. My boyfriend went to a party on campus at the university he attends. We talked Saturday and he told me the party was fun, but that nothing remarkable happened. Then this afternoon, I received a Facebook message from a girl who I do not know but who attends my boyfriend's school. Her message basically said that my boyfriend got her drunk at a party he attended Friday and that he subsequently violated her. She feels like my boyfriend is dangerous and wants to warn me that he is an unsafe person to be around. I have not replied to the message or asked the girl any questions about her story yet, and I'm not sure if I should or not. I know that I need to talk to my boyfriend about this, but I am not sure how to go about it. I checked his Facebook friends list and they are not friends, and I've never heard her name mentioned before by my boyfriend or any of our mutual friends. I am not sure whether or not I believe this woman, but I don't feel like I can totally dismiss this and forget it ever happened. So help me. How do I ask my boyfriend about this? Should I message her back? And if so, what should I say? What should I do? Now for the top advice before reading the update. You never know what people will do, even people you know very, very well. This girl may be stalk crazy, she may have a legit claim, or she may be manipulating you for some reason. Whatever the case may be, tread lightly. Write her back. Tell her to go to the hospital and get a kit done. She doesn't have to talk to the police, but the hospital will probably send them over. I was a crisis counselor in college for a while, and this is what happens. She can call one of those services and have someone go with her if she wants, but this isn't about her. Either way, she should do this if she's serious, and then tell you about it. Maybe you should arrange to meet her in person, so you can look this girl in the eye while she tells you about this incident with your man. When you're ready to talk to him, You know him at this point. You'll be able to read his face and body language while you hear him speak. Maybe he did this thing or something close to it, or maybe he didn't. You'll know more when you speak to him. Do you trust him to be honest with you, no matter what? You or he should possibly bring this to the proper school authorities as well. Is this girl in a sorority? I don't really know where this kind of thing would be handled. Maybe the police if she's a crazy person, just so it's on record. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. You're going to have to do a lot of trusting your gut on this one, and that's incredibly hard. It might take you a long time to get over the seed of doubt that's been planted. I hope things work out for the better. I'm on board with the idea of telling her to get a kit done as well. I would definitely minimize contact with her though, and certainly don't agree to meet up with her. The best advice I would give otherwise is to seek advice from a professional on how to approach the situation. Collectively, Reddit may be very smart, but you need some pretty specific wisdom to handle the situation well, and are better off seeking it from someone with the proper training. Got her drunk at a party he attended Friday and that he subsequently violated her. Sadly, got her drunk and forced her usually translates as she got drunk, had consensual hookup, and then felt ashamed in the morning. Edit. I will post an update Thursday or Friday depending on when I have time. Thanks everyone. Now for the update. First of all, I want to thank everyone for their responses. I read every response and message and took all of it to heart. Here's what happened next. The morning after posting, I showed my boyfriend a message. He denied everything, but I could tell right away from his body language that something had happened between him and a girl. I asked him if he was okay with me talking with a girl in person or contacting the host of the party to ask about the girl's story. At first, he was really reluctant to let me investigate further, but after a while, he seemed resigned to the fact that I was going to get to the bottom of this one way or another. He told me that he understood why I was worried and that he was okay with me doing anything I could to set my mind at ease. I took that as a good sign and called the host of the party, who really didn't tell me much, just that my boyfriend and a girl were both there. I then arranged an in-person meeting with a girl. I met the girl for coffee. Once she was in front of me and I asked her face-to-face about whether she got a kit done, she changed her story. A lot. She told me she had met my boyfriend at a party last Friday. She said that they spent the whole night drinking and talking. She said that after the party was over, she and my boyfriend went back to her apartment and ended up accidentally hooking up, whatever that means. She said she sent the message to me the next morning because she was upset when she looked him up on Facebook to friend him and saw that he had a long-term girlfriend. He apparently did not mention me once the entire night, and she was enraged that he used her like that. I told her that I thought that was more than just a little crazy, and she agreed, claiming that her crazy side just came out and she couldn't help but send me the message. I told her that it was very, very wrong to make false accusations like that, and that she should be completely ashamed of herself. She also said that she was really sorry for everything and that she would not contact me nor my boyfriend again. Needless to say, I went home and confronted my boyfriend. He admitted to everything and told me the exact same story as the girl. We broke up, and he is in the process of moving out of our apartment. I am devastated, because I really loved and trusted this man, but I have too much self-respect to continue to deal with a cheater. I do not believe anyone hook up by accident, and being really, really drunk just isn't a good enough excuse for me. Anyways, thanks for everything, and don't worry, I'm getting tested for STDs tomorrow. What kind of girl pretends to get violated because she was angry? Does she not understand the ramifications of that? WTF? Your ex-boyfriend doesn't even deserve that kind of crazy. Congrats on moving on with your life. Good luck on the STD test. My ex stuck is drunk and crazy. Thanks. I'm just going to eat a lot of Ben & Jerry's, wallow for the weekend, and then move on with my life. It's hard and it hurts, but it's way better than being somebody's doormat. What a fantastic outlook on a crappy situation. Healthy, healing, and acknowledging the crappiness of the situation. You are clearly a rock star that will be amazingly better on the other side of the wallow weekend. Cheers to you, and eat some ice cream for me. You are an exceptionally mature woman. I really admire how you've dealt with this. Seriously, that's what I call emotional health. I'm sorry for what happened, but I'm sure that with this attitude, you'll find a deserving guy soon. I'm going to take a break from dating and try to enjoy being single for a little while. Being cheated on and going through so much really weird drama can take a toll on a person, and I don't want to jump into anything worse. Gotta clear my head. Next story. My 29 female, boyfriend 32 male gave away my Hamilton tickets. Am I being selfish for just wanting to break up over this? Backstory. My mom is genuinely one of the funniest, kindest, sweetest people I've ever met, and I'm genuinely lucky to have been her daughter. She had me fairly young, raised me by herself, and while we were pretty poor growing up, she did her darnest to make sure that I got a good education and had everything I needed as a kid. One of the things we share is a love of theater. She would save up and take me to all the musicals that stopped on tour in our town, and while we were always in the cheap seats, it was always something we both greatly looked forward to. These memories of going to the theater with my mom are very precious to me, and is one of the main factors in why I work in the entertainment industry today. Corporate side though, as I have a horrendous singing voice. Lol. Fast forward to today. Like most theater nerds, my mom and I are basically obsessed with Hamilton. And for those of you who aren't really familiar with it, the show is basically impossible to get tickets for at this point, unless you want to see it in January of next year. I'm lucky enough to be in a financial position with my job that I could afford tickets for a show in July for me and my mom. These are amazing seats, 5th row center. And through some type of divine intervention, I managed to snag tickets for the night that creator/lead in Hamilton, Lin-Manuel Miranda's final performance. I surprised my mom with these tickets back in December for Christmas. I bought them in October, I think, and I'm making a whole week of it. I put us up in a really nice hotel. I made reservations at a bunch of restaurants that we both want to try, and we're going to do a bunch of touristy places in general. Plus, try to see if we can fit in at least one other show before we leave. We are both incredibly excited for this. My mom even has a little Hamilton countdown that she's doing on a mini chalkboard she uses as a planner. She sends me pictures every day when she changes it. It's cute. In January, I began dating this guy that I'll refer to as Josh. We were casual/not exclusive for a while, but became serious within the last 2 months. He also works in the corporate side of entertainment, but at a different agency than I do. He also has a higher position than me and makes a lot more money than I do. This becomes important. We met at an industry event and we hit it off instantly. I thought I could get really serious about this guy, and up to this point there have been no red flags that I've seen. Although, to be honest, right now I'm sifting through all of my memories to see if there's something I missed. He also comes from a much wealthier family than I do. Josh has a younger sister that I'll call Jennifer, 17, that's kind of going through a big troubled teen phase. She cuts class, smokes, and is really disrespectful to her parents. I've only met her once, but as far as I know, she's not doing anything too bad. She's just kind of a sad kid and could really benefit from some therapy. I floated this by Josh, but he said his parents are kind of disdain of therapy in general. Josh says they can't reach out to her no matter what they do and they've tried everything, except trying to get her to a counselor. But whatever. Actual problem time. Sunday night, I was at my place with Josh. We were drinking wine and cuddling while watching the Tonys, Theater Awards show. My mom was texting me during the Hamilton performance and geeking out about how excited she was. I laughed and showed my mom's text to Josh because I thought it was so adorable. And he didn't say anything off, but he was acting kind of strange after. He asked me what date the show we were going to was. I told him, and then he went into the other room to take a phone call. I thought nothing of it because we both have to take random phone calls like that for our jobs all the time, and is going through kind of a tough time it is. He was in an unusually good mood afterwards and said he had to go home early because he had to sign some forms at the office early tomorrow, before we met up to get brunch with his parents later that day. Again, nothing too unusual, and pretty common with the both of us. He picks me up at work for the brunch with his parents, and again, he's in an unusually good mood. I ask what's up, and he says vaguely that things are going well at the office and this deal he's trying to make is finally going through. I don't really press for info because we both try to avoid work topics, partially due to work stuff being fairly banal, and partially because we both have to sign some pretty gnarly NDAs a lot of the time. And this is only my second time meeting his parents, so I'm still a bit nervous about brunch. We get to the brunch place, and the first thing his mom does when she sees me is give me a huge warm hug and profusely thanks me for my kindness. His dad also gives me a huge handshake and thanks me for helping out with Jen. I'm kind of WTFing because I have no clue what they're talking about. I ask what she means, and she says for giving her the Hamilton tickets. I turn around to Josh and he just had this big grin on his face. Guys, that time my boyfriend was away talking on the phone for business, he was actually on the phone with Jen, promising that I would give her my Hamilton tickets. I was so thrown off by this that I kind of not very tactfully, I admit, say how I had no clue about this. Josh looks angry, and his parents are equally thrown off. But instead of getting mad at Josh, his mom just says, "Well, you can still give them to her though, right?" And they all look at me like I'm supposed to just agree with this. And I tried to explain that the trip is actually for me and my mom, and how important this is to my mom. All three of them start going on about how Jen is super excited about this, and that this is the first time that she's not been mad / expressed happiness to them in a while. And that's how the next half hour goes basically, until the parents leave, mad, and the dad calls me a selfish cow. I'm so flabbergasted that I just sort of put up with it, but I could barely get a word in. Josh and I go outside a brunch place and he starts screaming at me about my selfishness, and how Jen is going through a much harder time than they thought. He wasn't very clear on this, so I'm not quite sure what it meant. And that I'm being childish because it's just a musical. I hate having arguments in public. Also, this is one of my favorite brunch spots and I wanted to be able to come back without being embarrassed, so I wasn't really engaging. He eventually called me the C word and then left in his car, which is awkward as hell because it was valet parking, so he was just kind of stewing by the valet stand while I was waiting for my Uber. Later that night, I texted him saying while I wasn't giving up my tickets, there are still some available on that date. However, they cost about $2,500 due to ticket scalpers jacking up the price. Believe me, this is not a problem for either the parents or my boyfriend. He literally just bought a $3,000 watch for funsies last week. But the only response I got was that was an exorbitant fee, which I agree, but not the point he refuses to pay. And that he didn't understand why I couldn't just give the tickets to Jen. I also got texts from both his parents pleading with me to give the tickets. And also they forwarded an email to me that Jen sent to Josh and her parents, thanking them for the surprise. Apparently, she's also obsessed with Hamilton and this is making her year. Also, we live in LA. Do they also expect me to give up my plane ticket / hotel? What was their game plan here? Look, I completely understand wanting to help out with Jen, and I feel really bad that apparently her family's filled with weirdos. But this has been also baffling, and the entitled behavior they displayed is a massive turnoff. I'm not giving up these tickets, but I also kind of want to cut my losses here. The attitude Josh displayed towards me outside of the brunch place was very unpleasant to say the least. And he knows how disrespectful I find being called a C-word, so I'm of half a mind to just break up with him. He knew I had these tickets for a while, and I don't get why he decided to do this now at all. But should I contact Jen and explain it all? I just saw that he made a really excited post on Facebook about it. I'm not friends with her, but I'm friends with my boyfriend and I liked her post. I would straight up buy the ticket for her. But frankly, I can't afford those prices because I'm saving up for the New York trip for my mom. How do I move forward? Now for the top advice before reading the update. This is really bizarre and I think you should break up. I'm super confused though still, as I'm sure are you. Who would think this was a reasonable way to go about things in a million years? I really don't understand how we can see texts from Opie's mom freaking out with excitement about going to see this show and immediately think that the tickets are up for grabs. What a narcissistic a-hole. No wonder Jen is having such a hard time. She's being raised by narcissistic a-holes like these people. I genuinely feel bad for Jen. I didn't go into detail about this because my post was already way too long, but the email I was forwarded made me cry. She's having a really tough time as being a teen girl in LA sucks. And the Hamilton tickets made her feel like she was actually being listened to / understood by her parents. This is all messed up. So, they not only gave your tickets away, but they didn't even tell Jen it was from you? They just took credit for it? She thanks them several times, so I'm fairly certain they said it was a gift from them. There's no way I'm giving up the ticket still, but frankly, after the limited interaction I've had with her parents, I can definitely understand why she's acting out. Now for the update. Yeah, I'm typing up an email dumping him right now. Normally, I think it's better to meet up in real life for things like this, but his behavior both during and outside brunch was scary, and I would prefer not to be alone with him right now. Maybe that's paranoid, but better safe than sorry. I think this is one of those situations where everything was so crazy, and they were acting like this is totally normal behavior, that I thought I was the insane one. Update. I 32 female work overnights, but my father-in-law 60s male keeps bad-mouthing me and telling everyone I'm lazy. I'm afraid people are starting to buy it. Original story. I work overnights in a very demanding medical field. My sleep schedule has always been nocturnal, so this feels more natural to me than working days and brings my stress down. My husband is gone 5 days out of the week as a truck driver, and my days off are the same days as home, thanks to my seniority, and we are both night owls during this period. My mother-in-law recently passed away, so my father-in-law sold everything and moved to where we were. It has been included in my family events. At Christmas, my brother pulled me aside to let me know that my father-in-law is telling anyone who will listen that I'm lazy because I sleep all day. I work 12 to 24-hour shifts at my job during the days I'm working. The only reason I get my days off to align with my husband is the seniority I have, and even then I often have to work when he's home. I've now noticed that, along with him calling me, I am starting to miss calls around 2 to 3 p.m. from family members who know I'm home and are asking me to do things for them during the day. I'm usually asleep by noon and have to be up for work around 8 or 9 p.m. I've sat these people down to explain that I am an overnight emergency worker and that I need my sleep. My husband sat my father-in-law down and explained to him what I do, how I need my sleep, and that he's being a jerk. But my father-in-law maintains that a real job doesn't have overnights. I don't want to have to cut contact with him because we are the only family he has left. My husband stands behind me and says if I want to cut him out, even just to let him have a timeout, he's game. I also don't know how to address my whole family about this. My mom combats it as much as possible, but his way of thinking is starting to permeate them too. Now for the top advice before reading the update. I work nights, and I just return calls at 2 and 3 a.m. when it's convenient for me. They catch on. Think it's time for Opie to have a bring your child father-in-law to work day. This is exactly what I was thinking. Have him do some clinicals by your side. Let him see that you are indeed working the hours that he is sleeping. I'm not in the medical field, but I'm pretty sure this would be super weird, if it's even allowed. Doubtful. I know if I'm at a hospital and some doctor/nurse was like, "Do you mind if I bring in my father-in-law?" Oh no, he's not medical personnel. He's just a trash talker. I don't want to prove a point to him. Now please take off your pants. I'd be like, WTF. Start bringing father-in-law in at 2 or 3 in the morning and ask him why he isn't up yet. Tell him he's lazy for sleeping when you're at work. When it tells you you're being ridiculous, respond accordingly. Mom worked nights when I was a kid. Dad called Mom a few times while he was on lunch, waking her up. So she returned a favor and Dad figured it out immediately. Since Mom and Grandpa were both on nights during their careers, a benefit from them training our family. Also, do not disturb is a fantastic thing on smartphones. Only 7 people can ring me during hours I set. They know not to call unless it's important. I use my phone as an alarm clock so I can't just leave it in another room. I'm happy that your husband is on your side. Don't feel bad for your father-in-law when he doesn't feel bad for you. He needs to move out ASAP. Also, it's not your job to do anyone's errands. Ask these people that when the heck are you supposed to sleep if you work from X to Y? I'm petty, so I would call them in the middle of the night. Surely not everyone in your family is dumb. I wouldn't worry about it. I work from home. The amount of errands I got asked to do because you're not busy was insane, until I put a stop to it. I guarantee father-in-law's telling the family she's just being idle. There are people who will see an opportunity. And now for the update. Hey all. I dealt with my family members at a family gathering over the weekend. I saw my sister, one of my family members who had been texting me, and reminded her that I'm asleep at 3 or 4 p.m. when she texts. If she texts me first thing in the morning, like when she leaves for work at 7, maybe I could do whatever favor she needs before I go to sleep. I told her that I wouldn't be adjusting my schedule to do her favors. She seemed to understand. Over the weekend, my husband and I sat down with my father-in-law one last time to try to get him to understand that I'm a medical professional. I work nights and that my nights are as hard as working a day shift, oftentimes harder. I brought up my mother-in-law and reminded him how she called 911 at 2 a.m. when she had her first heart attack. I told him the person on the other end of that phone had a real job. The EMTs who came to take her to the hospital had real jobs, and the ear nurses and doctors that treated her had real jobs. I told him that yes, I could take a day shift, but I would be unhappy in the end because I'm just not wired to be awake during the day. Today is an exception because I'm on vacation and had a dentist appointment. Well, those who guessed that this was way more about my job were right. After the discussion, he point blank told me that my chosen hours weren't conducive to having children. When I reminded him that when his son and I got married 10 years ago, we both agreed that we weren't having children. He had some choice words. My husband kicked him out of our house and my family will stop inviting him to family gatherings. It's not the outcome I wanted, but hopefully it'll come around. Edit. To be clear, he did not live with us, but near us. My husband kicked him out of our house that evening. Heart attack. Genius. My husband kicked him out of our house and my family will stop inviting him to family gatherings. Good work. And welcome to r/child-free. As soon as I got married, both sides of the family started incessantly badgering us about kids. Are they offering to babysit to take care of our home? Of course not. I'll have kids when I get tired of having freedom and money. One of my daughters doesn't want to have kids. I see the static she gets sometimes and it pisses me off. What is wrong with people? If someone doesn't want kids, they should not have them. Having kids when you don't want them is the worst thing you can do. I agree. A lot of people shouldn't have kids, and yet so many people legitimately think women's sole purpose in life is to reproduce, and that we will not and cannot be happy if we don't. Thanks for the update. I think you and your husband handled it perfectly. Your job. It was always something more than the job. Nighttime medical shift work is the hardest job in the hospital. He sounds like a massive jerk who needs to keep his nose in his own business. Glad your husband stood up for you. Raised in a household where one parent worked days and the other nights. There's always someone home and always someone to pick up the kid. That's exactly why my parents did it. That's how me and my husband do it. I work days and he works evenings/weekends. It's a heck of a lot cheaper than $800+ per month in childcare, and she gets to be with her dad all day. Happy ending to an awful father-in-law. I'm not defending the dude, and he certainly has no right to treat family this way, but it's possible with the loss of his wife, having thoughts of getting old, and having no grandkids from his son has clouded his thought process. Grieving sucks, and can do weird things to your brain. It might be on his mind, but the words that came out of his mouth towards me when we reminded him we weren't having kids were absolutely unacceptable. He called me a lot of different names, including a racial slur. I'm mixed race, and he has never shown any sort of racism before. I hope he's just clouded and genuinely apologizes. I don't believe he's a bad person. Maybe just hurting. Next story is titled, My father-in-law, 47, has a terminal illness, and he propositioned me, 29 female. Myself and my husband have been together for 11 years and married 7. I wish this wasn't true. My father-in-law has been stepdad since he was 8, and my mother-in-law separated 2 years ago because he has been messaging other women, younger ones for context, like mid to late 20s. It was rough for a while, but everything has been okay, and relationships have been repaired. He is a great dad to my husband, and an amazing granddad to our kid and our extended family. His bio family are amazing people, and we've never been treated as anything other than blood. We're all extremely close, and it's a big family. That's what makes this harder. I've never felt creeped out by him, even though I knew this thing for younger women, but he's always been very respectful to me and treated me like a daughter. I and my husband were obviously extremely shocked and disappointed in him, and it took time to work through my husband and his relationship, but he made a huge effort to repair it and prove himself again. He has just had a diagnosis which gives him a few months. I don't want to go into detail for anonymity reasons. I went to see him before my husband got home from work and while my daughter was still in school to check on him. He gave me all the awful details, and we cried, etc. He told me it's sad he won't see his granddaughter grow up, his son grow older, and all his regrets. Then he told me he needed to tell me that he has always been attracted to me, and if I would agree to have one night with him as his dying wish. He said he isn't going to be able to meet anyone he's been hoping to, and hasn't had action since mother-in-law, and it would mean everything to him. I shut down. I know I should have said or done something, but I felt sick to my stomach, excused myself, and ran the heck out of there. I'm now at home wondering how do I handle this, and when/if/how I tell my husband. He's wondering why I'm not reacting to the bad news, and I've just said I'm still in shock. But obviously I feel disgusted by him and don't ever want to see him again. Do I ruin the only dad he's ever known for him and make the already impossible situation even worse? Lose all of our family? I'm so scared and confused. I've never seen him act like this or treat me this way. His relationship with my mother-in-law isn't the best, and his bio dad has never cared about him. He doesn't see his siblings. The family we have are my father-in-law's and my family, who are great. Anyone know how I deal with this crap show? Now for the advice. Tell your husband right now or this will eat you up. Otherwise, as you seem indifferent to Dad's dying, it'll make him think you are some kind of cold, heartless person. It could destroy your marriage. To make it even simpler, someone did something awful to you, and your husband's job is to make you feel better. And again, you can't keep the secret forever. And if it comes out after the old bugger is dead, your husband will always wonder what Dad's side of the story was. There are so many downsides to keeping quiet. And remember, you aren't ruining anything. He is. Thank you, you're right. Also, dying is not an excuse to do awful things. If anything, this person does not care at all to ruin yours and his own son's marriage, and then punch out. This isn't something you can really carry with you secretly without there being serious complications. You should tell your husband. As for ruining the relationship, no you didn't. Your father-in-law did that when he made a pass at you. I've carried a similar burden for 40 years. Tell him. I could honestly say so much. Do I ruin the only dad he's ever known for him and make the already impossible situation even worse? Your father-in-law managed that all by himself when he propositioned you. Tell your husband. And be prepared to support him throughout the fallout because I imagine it'll be immense. I'm so sorry you're having to deal with this. Exactly. I know how hard this will be on him. And getting the news this morning. It's going to break him. I guess I'm trying to figure out how to tell someone you love something that is going to change their whole perspective on a relationship they have that means everything. Ah, freaking heck. Is this disease anyway affecting his mental faculties? Bearing that, there isn't any excuse and the former is flimsy to begin with. First, your husband needs to know. Sooner rather than later. And you need the support he can give. Your father-in-law is solely responsible for any damage or fallout this may cause. It isn't. I wish that was it. Then at least it's an explanation of some kind. I'm going to tell him and we can grab some time without our daughter. I'm just scared. Thank you. Now for the last story. I am tired of being a married single mother. I am tired of being a single mother instead of a married mother, as my husband currently acts like my fifth child instead of a capable adult. When we met, he was a lovable and kind man. But now it seems as though he thinks I'm his personal maid, and that all child rearing and household burdens are mine. I've tried talking to him, and nothing comes out of it. It's as if a married energy vampire sucks all the life energy out of me. I work full-time, do all the domestic chores, all the child-related chores, and every time I ask him to do something, he purposely messes it up, or just doesn't do it. Our son's birthday was almost 2 weeks ago, and all I asked him was to pick up his birthday cake and candles. He literally was with me the day I ordered it at the bakery, but yet I still texted him the bakery's address and the name the order was under. He went to the wrong bakery. I decided to argue with the staff that they clearly messed up and ruined his kid's birthday. At some point, he decided to call me to complain of the deserved, horrible treatment he got from staff. I explained he was at the wrong store and to hurry up before the bakery closed. My son was standing next to me, and I could see he was genuinely anxious of not at least getting his birthday cake. Since we aren't having a party for him, we aren't having any parties as we are still adhering to strict COVID restrictions. I decided to pick the cake up, since I couldn't trust him to make it on time as it was close to the bakery's closing time, so we could still have a small little party with the rest of the household. But I realized that this isn't the first or 100th time this man has messed things up. I'm always the one the kids turn to. The one who is expected to know where everything is, when it should be done. I'm the one to fix it, or to worry about whatever is wrong. He just gets to smile, laugh with the kids, and I'm left with all the worries. I was so angry that he got to play with kids, while I was stuck running around cleaning, cooking, and making all the plans. He just gets to take credit. I can't seem to get over it, and I don't want to get over it. I feel used, neglected, and over-freaking worked. I feel alone. Every other day he talks about how hard he works, and yet it doesn't even measure up to half of what I do. He wakes up in the morning and only worries about getting himself dressed, whether he should go to the gym or what he's having for breakfast. I wake up to getting the kids showered, clothed, then I get them their breakfast and lunch is packed. The only thing he does regularly is drop the kids off 2, or if I'm lucky, 3 times a week. While I am left with cleaning the house and then getting myself ready, and even checking in on his elderly parents while I drive to work. And when I'm back from work, he's sitting there waiting for me to make dinner, to help the children with their homework, then clean up, do the laundry, and put the kids to bed. I am so freaking tired. Gun to his head, he wouldn't know the names of the kids' teachers. their best friends, their friends' parents, the doctors, dentists, their tutors or babysitters' phone numbers, his parents' doctors, their medicine, or their caregiver's phone number/working hours. He gets to just exist and without worry, without exhaustion, and I'm so tired of complaining. So tired of crying. So tired. I don't know why I wrote all of this. Maybe I wanted to vent into the vastness of the internet. Maybe I wanted advice. Maybe I am just tired of being miserable on my own. Please Google weaponized incompetence if you're not already familiar. This is exactly what your husband is doing. He can definitely do basic chores and remember basic things, but he knows he can act like an idiot and you'll pick up the slack for him. In my experience, people like this hardly change. What is keeping you in this marriage? It's not like you suddenly became a crappy partner. It was slow, gradual, and before I knew it, it was my job to manage and do everything for our family. All bad things, forgetting to remind kids of their activities, not doing XYZ for the kids, not real bad things, are my fault. And all good things are due to our efforts, even though it was me who made it happen. He gets to be the relaxed parent while I'm forced to be the one that gives the kids a routine and structure. So of course, I'm the bad guy for making the kids go to bed, brush their teeth, etc. I didn't just wake up one day to be in this position. It took a lot of time. I spent the majority of my childhood in foster care, without family, and then to be abused by the people who adopted me. I had always hoped and promised myself I would offer my kids everything a child deserved to have. And one of those things is that they are to be part of the two people that created them. To know them, to be loved and cared by them. My reluctance to have a failed marriage since he doesn't physically or financially abuse me. Being mistreated and abandoned as a child can oftentimes leave you with a very low bar. To give my children the family unit I never had. But at this point, I don't even think they'd mind us separating. He loves his children even though he doesn't raise them. And in many ways, I do love him since he was the first man I got to be safe with. But honestly, love is not enough to sustain a marriage, a family, or a household. I'm fairly certain that divorce is on the table, and I believe that I'm at the stage where I'm mentally preparing myself before I act.
Am I the a-hole for refusing to help my aunt? Plus update. I am 40 female single mother raising my 2 children. My ex-husband cheated on me and was very abusive mentally and physically. He left me for a young woman when I was 26. I by myself worked hard and came up to the position where I am now. I am currently earning 6 figures and doing well. So the background story is, my family didn't support me during my divorce, though they were well off, and I had to move states to find employment and affordable housing. Most of my relatives blamed me for ruining the family's reputation, specifically my mother's sister, the aunt I'm referring to. She spread rumors about me and insulted me on many occasions, and kept talking to my ex and feeding him all my information. I had to go through court battles for custody for my children by myself, while this aunt supported my ex spreading rumors and helping him gain custody for 2 years. Finally, I managed to get the custody of my children and we are happy. Recently, my aunt has been calling me and requesting financial support and asking me to help her children get jobs. I told her to go and ask my ex who she supported. I don't know if I am the a-hole here, but my mother thinks it was unnecessary, and I should have supported it. So Reddit, tell me, am I the a-hole? You've worked hard to rebuild your life after all that drama. It's tough to forget how your aunt treated you during your worst times. You're not obligated to help her now, especially after she supported your ex. Your aunt has some brass yarbles. If she approaches you again, start laughing uncontrollably, catch your breath, and say no. Then ghost her. No explanations. Either she knows why, or she's freaking oblivious. In either case, you have no obligations. You're not the a-hole. They let you all down. She can go get financial help from your ex or anyone else that didn't support you. You stand your ground and support you and your children. Close that door and move on to a happier life. Not the a-hole. After what your aunt did, I'd say she can go to hell and figure things out on her own. It's amazing that she has to come back after all this time and ask you for anything, considering what she did. However, I guess that she must really be desperate and in that much of a need of help. She really shouldn't have done that to you though, because if I were you, I would either say, new number, who's this? Sorry, don't know you, and I'm not going to help a stranger. Not with this economy. Bye now, and block. Or just block her. This particular aunt doesn't sound like she needs to be desperate to ask for help from someone she treated horribly. OP did well for herself, and now Auntie sees dollar signs. Help her children get jobs? Hell no. She raised them. They're probably lazy and motivated losers. They can get their own jobs. She needs money? Sounds like Auntie should get a job. I'm sure she thinks, maybe said, that what happened between them was years ago. Bygones at all. She's despicable. Edit/mini update. After reading your responses, I realized I wasn't wrong to refuse to help, but I'm going to stay firm in my decision. When I posted here, I was having doubts. In my culture, we are expected to respect the elders even if they are total a-holes. And because my mother was trying to guilt trip me, she always does this to get her way. And right now, I don't want that toxicity in my life. Thanks to you guys, I decided I'm going to cut contact with my aunt and her family. And I'm going low contact with my parents for a while. I'm meeting my mother for lunch tomorrow and letting her know my decision. And we will gradually start to address the issues in our relationship and try to mend it. There is probably going to be waterworks, name-calling, and telling me how much of an ungrateful child I am. But I'm gonna stay firm in my decision. I will update you guys if anything interesting happens. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to support my brother's kids after he passed away, even though I am financially able to? I, 38 male, have always had a complicated relationship with my younger brother Jake, 34 male. Growing up, we were never close. Jake was the golden child in the family, and I was always expected to support him, help him out, and be there for him, even when he made terrible decisions. He was always the reckless one, dropping out of college, getting into trouble, and having kids he couldn't really afford with multiple women. 5 months ago, Jake tragically passed away in a car accident, leaving behind 3 kids with 2 different women. It was devastating for the family, but I can't say Jake's life choices didn't contribute to some of his struggles. He had no life insurance, no savings, and left his kids in pretty bad shape financially. My parents, who are both retired and living on a fixed income, asked me to step up and help support Jake's kids. I'm financially stable, well off even. I run my own business and my wife and I don't have kids of our own, so we live pretty comfortably. My parents think it's my responsibility to take over Jake now that he's gone. They've been pressuring me to set up college funds for his kids, help with their living expenses, and even contribute to their mother's bills, as both women are struggling to make ends meet. Here's the thing, I don't want to. It sounds harsh, but I feel like I'm being asked to pay for Jake's mistakes. I don't have a relationship with these kids, and I barely had one with Jake. I've spent my whole life cleaning up his messes, and now that he's gone, I feel like I'm financially free of that obligation. I didn't ask him to have multiple kids with no plan for their future. My wife agrees with me, and she feels like we shouldn't have to sacrifice our financial freedom because of my brother's poor decisions. But now my family is furious with me. They're calling me heartless, saying I'm abandoning my own blood, and that Jake's kids will end up in poverty without my help. Some of my friends think I'm being too cold and should at least help a little, even if I don't go all in. I get that these kids didn't ask to be born into this situation, but I also don't think it's my responsibility to fix everything, just because I'm the one with money. My wife and I worked hard to get where we are, and I feel like we shouldn't be expected to give that up for decisions we didn't make. So am I the a-hole for refusing to financially support my late brother's kids, even though I can afford it? Those kids have a mother and are eligible for supplementary security income to compensate financially for their deceased father. It is up to their moms to manage their finances. The kids will only be eligible for SSI if their father actually worked and paid into Social Security. Doesn't make them OP's responsibility, but that is not how it works. Given Jake's age at death, we would add in that he had to work 40 quarters, 10 years, in jobs that paid into Social Security. If he were in his mid-20s, the amount of required work time would be less for your surviving minor children to receive monthly payments. Consider it child support that is always paid on time and in full. His total benefit will be split evenly between all 3 children. But the mothers need to apply. Benefits date from the date of the phone call to set up the appointment. Not the a-hole. Your parents can do it if they want to, but it is not your responsibility. They enabled your brother for years, so now they can pay the price for their poor choices in life. I agree, those kids' situation is difficult as it is. However, they still have their mothers to support them. You have no responsibility to fix everyone's problem. Your parents should not force you to do anything that you don't want, and they should respect that, OP. People who thinks that it's your responsibility to help them should start chipping in with themselves and give the money to those kids, not the a-hole. I told my mother I plan to be cremated. She asked me to sign over my military burial plot so my brother wouldn't end up in an unmarked grave. This after we had already agreed he would eventually lose the house she leaves him free and clear because he will fail to pay the taxes. Sucks being the good kid, making the good decisions, then being hated for it. I'm putting $10,000 in an investment for my nephew. Nobody will know until he's a junior in high school. Him and I will have a conversation in his future. If he's got a good head on his shoulders, I will help him. If not, it will be passed to my grandkids. But I'm not just giving anyone anything. It will be on my terms. I'm sure not paying child support to some baby mother. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my dad he made a dumb decision and I don't need to fix it for him? My mom died when I, 16 male, was 5. I remember her, just not amazingly well. When I was 7, my dad started dating again and met Mara. At first, I was upset about Mara and my dad dating. I didn't want to meet her and gave her a hard time. She gave me space to let out all my feelings at her, and then she reassured me she was not here to take mom's place. She told me she really liked my dad and wanted to really like me too. But she didn't have to be my mom for us to like each other. At first, I wasn't sure if I believed her. But she won me over and we got along really well. She even lived with us for a year. But when I was 10, Dad broke up with Mara and said she wasn't trying hard enough to fill the role of mom for me and I needed a mom. I told him I didn't want another mom and I loved Mara, that she was the best. Mara was blindsided by it because things had been so good and I don't think my dad had said it would be a deal breaker. Within a few months, he met his wife Stacy. Stacy was a single mom with a 2-year-old daughter. I was 11 then. Stacy was very on board to be my new mom and I was not. I said it so many times I didn't want a new mom and I wouldn't call someone else mom. I missed Mara and wouldn't give Stacy a chance if she tried to take over mom's place. I was ignored and Dad and Stacy got married when I was 12. After my 16th birthday, which was June, my dad kinda realized I was serious about not wanting a mom and not giving Stacy a chance to be my mom. She has tried so hard too. She has tried to make me love her and her daughter. But I'm not here to get a new mom. I'm not open to it, something Dad now knows. It's caused a lot of strain within him and Stacy because Stacy found out I had DM'd Mara recently and apologized for Dad and thanked her for being awesome and saying I miss her. Stacy said she can't even get me to say I like her. I told her it's because I don't. That I don't like people who don't listen or who think they can make me do things like let them be my new mom. Stacy said she was expecting/promised a family for her daughter. Not this. Dad pulled me aside a few nights ago and told me he now realizes I was serious about the things I said. And he realizes I loved Mara. But that he really wanted the best for me. And someone who wouldn't even try to be my mom, wasn't it? He told me Stacy would be such a good second mom to me, and I could have a sister if I give this a chance. He said his marriage could end if we can't pull together as a family. I told him he made a dumb decision and I wouldn't fix it for him. I said it was fine if Mara just wasn't the one for him or if their relationship changed. But I loved her because she wasn't my mom. She was someone I could trust and love as Mara. And that my dislike of Stacy wasn't changing and neither was my unwillingness to get a new mom. Dad told me I don't get to speak to him like that I was out of line. Am I the a-hole? Now for the comments. Not a-hole. You have consistently told your dad over the years that you did not want a new mother. And he has consistently, including now, ignored what you had to say. He's the one who screwed up, not you. Sounds like he made promises to Stacy that he expected you to keep for him. That's all on him. And you're right, it's not up to you to fix it. That's exactly how it sounds to me too. He didn't believe me, so he promised her this traditional family with the four of us, where she'd get to be a mom to me and I'd be a son to her and a brother to her daughter. At no point did he consider even for a second that I wasn't lying about not wanting a new mom. Took him this long to figure it out. What's worse is he chased away Mara, who actually loved you both, and was probably the only person who ever actually listened to you and heard what you said. She could have really helped you and your dad be closer, if your dad had just stopped with the self-sabotage. Not the Holopi. And she did while they were together. She was the person who encouraged him to talk more about mom and tell me stories, show me photos. He didn't do that naturally, but he opened way up with her encouragement and I learned so much. Last story. Am I the a-hole for playing favorites with my grandkids and when confronted by my daughter-in-law, telling her that it's due to her? This post is about my son and Amy, my daughter-in-law. They have been married for about 10 years and have 2 kids. They're 10 and 6. At the beginning, I really tried to get along with her, but she made it difficult. She's not very sociable and always put her own mom overseeing her husband's side of the family. This is really apparent with holidays and the kids. She always chooses to go to her mom's for holiday, even if I do it on an early day or late day. If I offer to babysit, she always tells me to ask her mom, or she would get back to me. The time I do babysit or get to hang out with the grandkids, she is criticizing everything I do, usually saying that's not how her mom or how she does it. At the beginning, my son was trying to fix this, but gave up. We see him separately from his wife and kids. I truly don't understand it, and I have asked if I did anything wrong, but no answer on that. I give up trying when my other son had kids. It is so much better, and I have a great relationship with my other daughter-in-law and the kids. The kids are 9, Ava my step-granddaughter, and 4, grandson. So I gave my Ava a family necklace that was my mother's. She loves it, and has been wearing it everywhere according to my son. That also includes school, which started this issue. My daughter-in-law called up and asked why Ava got a family necklace, but her daughter at 10 didn't get one. I told her I just wanted to give it to Ava. She got angry and told me I was playing favorite, and that her daughter is older, so she should have gotten the necklace. I told her that yes, I am playing favorites, and it is due to her. I pointed out that I do not know her daughter because of her, that her kids will not be getting any of my family stuff because of her. This was a huge argument, and she called me a jerk and wanted me to give her kid a necklace. I am doubting myself on this. Not the a-hole. What does she want you to do? Sue for grandparents' visitation rights? Oh wait, she wants to keep her kids away from you, but have you give them stuff. Yeah, pass. And maybe talk to your son and say that you find it hurtful when his wife keeps the grants from you, but also demands gifts. For the daughter-in-law, I just ignore the greedy bits and respond to each gift grab with something like, well, it certainly would be nice to see the kids more. Do let me know when they're free to visit. Just so we're on the same page, it sounds like you're okay with the kids not having a relationship with me, but you still want me to give them things. Is that what you're saying? That my purpose in their lives is just about material goods? Not the a-hole. Exactly. Daughter-in-law was perfectly happy never seeing grandma until she found out it was costing her kids stuff. And her response, of course, isn't thinking, maybe I should bring my kids over more so they can bond and let the treatment equalize as a result of that bonding. Nope. Instead, she says, stop showing favoritism and give my kids stuff, with no mention of changing her treatment of grandma. Not the a-hole. It's difficult, but the conversation needs to be steered toward the amount of quality time you're able to spend with your grandkids. She's putting the focus on the gifts that were given, when that's the least important part of the relationship. I wouldn't discuss with Amy about why her daughter isn't getting a necklace. She'll try to poke holes in the argument, come up with counter-arguments, and spend way too much time on that point. The conversations should focus on why you're not able to see your grandkids for the holidays, why you can't babysit them, why you can't spend more time with them. Hopefully, the necklace is causing your granddaughter to pressure Amy about seeing you more, even if it's for slightly jealous reasons. And now is a great time for your son to start trying to fix this again. Amy seems to have a renewed interest. Update.
Would I be the a-hole if I go on a trip that my cousin organized on the same day of my father's wedding with a woman he started dating 2 weeks later of my mother's death? Original post. My 18 female father is going to marry his girlfriend next week, a day before my cousin's 21 female birthday. My mother died 4 years ago, and almost 2 weeks later, my father was dating that woman. I was grieving, and I had to tolerate a total stranger in the house. My father told me that he met that woman at work. The doubt that she has always been my father's mistress is always in my head, but I don't know. I don't like her anyways. My cousin organized a trip to the beach which will last a week. It was given to her by my aunts and uncle because she won a scholarship overseas in a college. My aunts and uncle won't go to the wedding. Some of my other cousins won't go to the wedding to go to the trip too. My cousin arranged the trip entirely on purpose to ruin my father's wedding since my mother was her godmother. My father was mad at her, but my cousin told him she's not going to cancel her trip for a second wedding. Or in her literal words by text, "I'm much more interested in seeing the grass grow than in your wedding." Today my father found out that I will be going to the trip too, and he's totally mad at me. He even cried telling me that everyone is punishing him for finding love. I asked him if my mother was the love of his life. They always used to say those kinds of things, and he kept crying saying that I don't understand because I'm too young. He says that every time I try to talk about something serious with him, even when I want to talk about politics or important things, it's his way of shutting me up. He says he just finally found love, his words. He said his girlfriend is the real love of his life. Good for him, I guess. My mother always said he was the love of her life until the last day, and because of his words, my mother was never the love of his life. I think I feel sad to think about how my mother would feel if she hears my father say that he finally found real love, when in my mother's eyes and words, he was her soulmate. Can you really find the love of your life in 2 weeks? I understand that grief is different for everyone, but who grieves spending Christmas with your new girlfriend and not with your daughter who lost her mother? He neglected me since that day even if I was a teen. Everything was always about how he feels and wants. I told him that I will go on a trip and I don't want to attend his wedding, and he kept crying. My paternal grandmother called me to pray and tell me that I'm being unfair to my father who just found love again. But I just don't want to go or be near him. I stopped being close to my dad long time ago. That my perception of what a father figure is has been almost totally erased from my mind. Edit. My parents didn't have an open marriage or anything like that. My mother always made it clear that she would divorce if she thought the marriage was bad or getting weird. I'm sure that in her eyes, she had a healthy and normal marriage. We were all shocked with the fact that my father introduced his girlfriend when we were all grieving. It's something no one understands to this day. My mother died really quickly from a virus/bacteria. She died within a month and a few days, and no one expected her to die. Not even my mother expected her health to get like this. She believed to the last day that she would live. The person who took the most care of her in the hospital was my grandmother. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. Do what you want. If you don't respect the relationship, why would you want to go anyways? Besides, I get the feeling this woman was involved with your dad before your mom passed. Because who the heck moves someone in 2 weeks after their wife dies? A cheater, that's who. He's just mad that everyone sees through his BS. I wouldn't go either. She didn't move into the house instantly, but she went every day and stayed overnight. It was really uncomfortable. I always suspected that she was my father's mistress, but I never asked, because my father would deny it anyway. Trust your gut. You're probably right about her being the mistress. Unfortunately, I'm sorry for your loss, OP. Be with your family and let your dad sulk. He brought this upon himself. Gosh, he abandoned you when you were 14 years old to spend Christmas with his new girlfriend? Right after you lost your mother, and mind you, his wife? Not the a-hole, but he sure is. When Christmas came, he decided to go on a trip with his girlfriend without even inviting me, because I never liked Christmas anyways. I spent that Christmas with my mother's family. Wow, I don't know your father, but I hate him. You're not the a-hole. Go enjoy your trip. Not the a-hole. Who leaves their grieving child alone on Christmas? Then he wants to cry about love? He can kick rocks with his love. Now for the update. Thanks to the comments, that day I decided to talk with my father and ask him if he cheated on my mother. I got really anxious and just needed to know the truth because it was something that made me feel really nervous. After insisting in hearing him cry, he confessed to me that he had been talking and going to places with his girlfriend/friend for a while my mother was still alive and even before she got sick. My mother didn't know that my father had that kind of relationship, and it was all behind her back. He showed me some things his girlfriend shared in her IG at that time. She knew he was married. When my mother died, his girlfriend, at the time friend, approached him to comfort him. He didn't say exactly when, but I guess that obviously it was between those 2 weeks. I want to think it wasn't the day my mom passed away, because it was unexpected and we were all too busy. My father told me that it was the first time they had physical contact, but he always felt guilty about his friendship with that woman. I'm not very familiar with the subject, but I think it's what people call emotional cheating. I only know that he kept it a secret because he knew he was doing something bad. I asked him if he and my mother were having marital problems, and he said no, not at all. According to my father, his friendship with his girlfriend was something he planned to keep as a secret forever when my mother was alive and healthy. Father told me that he thought he loved my mother until he kissed his girlfriend and decided that we only live once. So that's why he took her home just 2 weeks after my mom died and did everything he wanted with her. My father's logic was that his job gave him a week of mourning. So according to him, 2 weeks was enough mourning for me. I told him that while he fulfilled his fantasies, I was alone in our home. And he kept saying the same things like, "OP, you were almost 15 years old. You were already a woman. At your age, I was already working, blah, blah, blah." I don't think I'll ever get to that level of maturity to understand his mind. I asked him that if he thought about cutting off contact with his girlfriend if my mother found out, and he said something like, "No, I wouldn't cut contact with her. It was just an innocent secret, and your mother never found out." I told him my mother would cut off his balls if he heard him say that, and he started crying again. But anyway, all of this doesn't change anything. The result is still the same. A father who neglected his daughter. I said a lot of things to him. I've been going to the psychologist for years, so I know how to manage my feelings. But at that moment, I told him everything I've been keeping to myself and he cried again. Isn't that weird? Cry when you're the one who screwed up? I only feel bad for my mother and myself. And for now, I warned him that I am going to rent the house to make money and cut off contact with him when he leaves the house with his girlfriend. He didn't complain about that, because at least he always agreed that the house is mine. I'm not going to leave him homeless or anything like that. I'm not going to his wedding. I'm not going to invite him to my wedding in the future either. I don't care if my future kids doesn't have a grandparent or anything like that. I think years ago I lost both parents, but luckily I have my family. I see myself as a person who had to mature quickly. My mother left me in charge of my father, but my father maybe decided to bury his paternal instinct next to my mother. Or maybe he never had one. He was always a regular father, so I don't care if I don't see him again. I don't feel anything for my father's girlfriend, but I just don't like her. Because I would never date a man who neglected his daughter, and she's going to marry a man like that. Anyways, we never argued and I don't hate her at all. I hope she's my father's final real love. There are people who commented saying that I was making my father look bad on purpose and that I was probably a brat who has a bad behavior, just because I'm a teen and my mother died. I don't understand what kind of education those people had, but being a teenager doesn't mean that we let ourselves be carried away by our feelings. Sometimes a minor can speak much calmer and in control than an adult, and that doesn't mean that I want to play myself as a saint. It's just how my feelings work. That doesn't mean I wasn't suffering because I didn't yell at him. Also, a random person posted my story on another subreddit making fun of me and saying that I'm making myself look like an angel. I know it's the internet, but it's sick to make fun of the people with the problems. I really don't know where I went wrong for my father to prefer to forget that he has a daughter. I don't know what I could have done wrong. Maybe the key was to yell at him and make a tantrum to get his attention, as some comments said, but I stopped caring long time ago. Your father is disgusting. He was cheating on your mom for years. No, at 15 you weren't an adult, and even if he had been, you were still his child, and you needed him. And where was he? Living it up with his girlfriend. You were right to tell him how you feel, and I would absolutely go no contact with him. He made his choice. I love how Opie is too young and doesn't understand when her father wants to dismiss her and shut her up. But when she tells him off for leaving her alone, she was almost 15 and already almost a woman, and he was working at that age. Like, pick one, a-hole. I hope Opie never has to speak to him again. He can take his 2 late crocodile tears and his homewrecker girlfriend with him on the way out. Yeah, that part. Of course, it kept moving the goalposts on OP about what she's apparently too young to understand, but old enough to go out and do. He's great at emotional manipulation, that's for sure. OP's dad is disgustingly selfish and self-centered. I'm glad the family took a stand against his abhorrent cheating butt. Cousin is a boss. I think she helped to give the rest of the family the gumption to tell OP's dad to go screw himself. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to pay for my friend's wedding because she uninvited me? Okay, so here's the deal. My friend, let's call her Sarah, and I have been tight since high school. We've been through everything together. Breakups, makeups, you name it. So when she got engaged, I was over the moon for her. Fast forward to a few months before the wedding. Sarah sends out the invitations and I'm psyched to RSVP. But then out of nowhere, she texts me saying that she's had to cut down the guest list due to budget constraints, and unfortunately, I didn't make the cut. I was devastated. I get that weddings are expensive at all, but to uninvite me after we've been friends for so long? Ouch. Fast forward again to the wedding day. I see all these photos in social media and it looks like a fairy tale. But here's the kicker. Sarah texts me later that week asking for money to help cover the costs of the wedding. Apparently, they went over the budget and she is asking all the guests who didn't attend to chip in. I was floored. Not only did she uninvite me, but now she expects me to foot the bill for a wedding I didn't even get to go to? I told her no way. I refused to pay a single dime. But now she's saying I'm being selfish and unsupportive. Am I the a-hole here? Or is Sarah out of line for expecting me to pay for her mistake? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole, and I hope you know that. I would stop this friendship entirely. Send her a few laughing emoticons/gifs, and then block her. One of the tackiest things I've ever heard. Thank you for your support and understanding. It's been a roller coaster of emotions dealing with this situation. To add a bit more context, Sarah and I had always been there for each other, so her decision to uninvite me really caught me off guard. I tried to rationalize it, thinking maybe she was under a lot of stress or pressure to cut costs, but it still hurt nonetheless. I don't want to cut her off, as she helped me through some tough times. Is there anything else I can do in this situation? No problem. I normally don't advise people to troll people, but in this case, I would personally troll her in the most childish of ways with laughing emoticons and memes. Not saying you should. Wild guess, but you must have also helped her through tough times. So I'd say you're probably even or more than even. This friendship will never be the same. You will resent her for uninviting you. She will resent you for not paying. And focus on making new friends or spending more time with other people. Stop clinging to this fake friendship. No, you're not. Asking for money, especially from people who didn't get invited, is one of the most absurd things I've ever heard in my entire life. It's even worse. OP was invited, then got cut, then Googled at the wedding photos on social media, and then got hit up for money. I guarantee OP is the only uninvited guest who has also sent a demand for money. Otherwise, Sarah would surely get a clue when everyone refused to pay. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to go to AA meetings as a condition of my in-laws letting us have their second home and opting to move out of state instead? About 4 years ago, I developed an alcohol problem. It took over my life like it did for a lot of people during the pandemic. I was going through multiple boxes of wine in a week. What was honestly very shocking to me was that my husband didn't realize how often I was drunk, sitting next to him. When I first came to him to tell him I needed help, he was confused. I had done some effort to conceal my drinking, but I figured as my husband, he had to have at least known. Apparently not. 6 months ago, I finally started to seek help from a qualified medical professional. I tried an AA meeting and quickly learned that it just wasn't for me. I know it's great for a lot of other people, just not for me. I preferred to work with my addiction counselor and evidence-based support group led by a medical professional. My in-laws are aware of my problem. My mother-in-law wanted my husband to leave me and take the kids. They are both of the mindset that alcoholics have to go to AA. Otherwise, they won't get better. We've tried to explain to them that it's an outdated perspective that doesn't take into consideration the many alternatives. They don't care. We're finally in a better place and ready to find a long-term home. In-laws offered to give us their second home, but their condition is that I must go to AA meetings. As I've said, it is not for me. My husband agrees with me that it's a non-starter. The other part of this is the logistics of all that property exchange or buying, but this isn't about that. When we broke the news to the in-laws, they hit the roof. They were furious that we dare reject their offer, especially because it means that we will move away from them due to the cost of living here. We're going to move a state away, a 4-hour drive. I think it'll be a wonderful new start for all of us. Well, my mother-in-law has turned this into a personal thing against her, that I'm taking her grandkids away from her, that I'm choosing alcohol over the family, etc. She rants about me all day and night on Facebook, telling everyone that I'm a nasty falling down drunk and all that. My husband is perfectly happy with our plan. He wants me to be happy and healthy so I can be a happy and healthy mom to our kids. But part of me really wonders if I'm just being stubborn. Am I the a-hole? You sound like you're a quiet drinker and one day just realized it became a problem. As you mentioned, your husband was surprised when you told him. There weren't drunken fits of rage. You were just drunk most of the time, which is a problem indeed. AA wasn't for you, but you didn't say, well, at least I tried and got back to drinking. No, you looked for something that actually did help. Listen to your guts. They do a very good job dealing with your mother-in-law too. You were not stubborn here. She was trying to control you. Turned out it was a bad idea, mother-in-law. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Hers is now a 4-hour drive to her grandchildren. Not the a-hole. You made some very smart decisions. Hug your husband. He is great. Agree 100%. That house comes with a lot of strings. What other ultimatums are they going to give you? I doubt it will stop there. Get free. I wouldn't want to live near someone who treated me like that. Having to see them all the time. Advice? Make sure your new home does not have a dedicated guest room. I got out of a lot of uncomfortable situations by not having a comfortable room for someone to show up and stay and tell me how to raise my kids, and decide to stay another week and get up early and rearrange my cupboards. Not the a-hole. Honestly, I'd never accept something like this with conditions, even if the conditions were reasonable, because they very well may be subject to change. Who knows if you have to go to AA will become other demands. Do what's best for you and your family.